Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Hello, everybody. I am Kelly White.
And I'm Dr. Shirley, and welcome to Both Sides Now. And we have John, our wonderful engineer.
Hello, hello, hello.
Now, because we have a wonderful guest tonight, you won't be able to see John this time, but he is here, and you'll be able to hear him.
You'll be able to hear me.
So, Kelly, why don't you introduce our guest?
Today we have a fabulous guest. We have, he's returning.
Yeah, returning guest.
By popular demand.
Yes.
Today we have Bill Cinquet. He's a fabulous musician and spiritualist. Yay.
Welcome, Bill.
The in-studio crowd
Right.
going nuts.
Going nuts.
Can barely
for
hear
you.
myself over there.
Oh my gosh. Well,
So-
earlier we were talking. You and I, we met in the other room, and we were talking about that. Yesterday we went to see Michael McDonald, and it was an extraordinary experience. And my takeaway from seeing that Michael McDonald was looking at the audience. The audience was 50s, 60s, 70s, and I was stunned, in my perspective, as everybody was so much older. I was wondering, from a musician standpoint and being on stage, what are your feelings when you look into the crowd?
A lot of the crowds I play to are older.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic because I'm 57 years old. I didn't think I would be on stage at 57 years
yeah.
old.
Yeah.
So for me to look into the audience and see people older than I am paying tickets, waiting online, coming in and actually standing and applauding and dancing with us and singing with us.
Yeah.
If I went back to my club years when I was 19 years old and we were all, very hip and couldn't be bothered with our parents' music,
right.
I could not envision my parents at 60 years old going out to a club and dancing.
Right. That's
you
so
know,
true.
going out to a theater and waiting online, going into an arena, and paying $75 to see their favorite entertainer. So I think it's amazing to look out and see that there's that much energy, and there's that much passion for music, and there's actually still that much interest
Yeah.
in music.
Yeah.
So
That-
I kind of look at it that way. It's not that I'm a half glass full guy, but I just love to see that there are people of older generations. It's kind of like 80 is the new 60 or however they say it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I
It
think
sure
it's
felt that
fantastic.
way.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's we were talking about. It's like looking at your high school reunion picture, saying,
So true.
"Where are all these old people?
What
I still look
happened?
the same."
I know.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. I still feel the same. But how do you notice a difference between when you were younger and on stage and looking at the crowd? Maybe in the dynamics of the crowd or how they act. I don't know. It's
Well,
fascinating
I
to
mean,
me.
sure you do, but I think there's an old philosophical thought that no man steps in the same river twice
Mm.
because you're not the same man, and it's not the same water.
right.
So
right.
essentially nothing is static. So when you say, well, when I was 19, everybody was 19.
Right,
When I was
exactly.
19, there were no cell phones. When I was 19, so it was a whole different world. And it's kind of hard to say, let's just move the audience back 20 years without moving me back.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I know that when I was 19 and playing, in the book that I wrote, one of my favorite chapters, if I can say that, I played at Marymount College, which is a small college in Tarrytown, New York, and it's an all-girls school. It was an all-girls school.
Mm-hmm.
And the three of us, we had a three-piece band called Foxfire. We were 19. We were single guys playing in an all-girls college.
Oh, boy.
It was heaven.
Oh,
it was the
boy.
greatest gig ever.
Did you play at the prom?
No, actually, we played in this little place. And the funny thing is, talking about the perspective, in my mind's eye, we were playing to 200 screaming women. I went back and saw the place 6 months later. You could fit 40 people in there with a crowbar.
That is so funny.
It's twice the size of this room, but in my mind's eye, it was huge because it was energy. I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was exciting for me because I had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've seen it a couple of times after doing this for
Yeah.
40 years, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
Is it still exciting for you to get on stage?
It's incredibly exciting. I love it. I mean, I spend most of my time smiling.
Wow.
I spend a little time crying, in a good way, because
Yeah.
I still get emotional about music. I know people think I'm kidding when I say that, but I do.
Oh yeah.
Is it the emotion of that people are listening?
I think probably, but a stage and a venue. Let's call it a venue. A venue means it could be 20,000 people at the Hollywood Bowl, and it could be 35 people at Wine 661 in Valencia, California, where I play very often.
It's a great place.
And
to
you'll
go.
be playing when?
October 9th, I'll be there.
October 9th.
And I've done that a lot. I've done both a lot these
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
But the whole thing about a venue is it's kind of its own environment. It's its own
Yeah.
ecosystem, kind of where you play to 25 to 35 people that are really listening and really into it. It's the greatest gig in the world. It's the most spiritual thing. It's the most uplifting thing. It's the most soul nourishing thing in the world. You play to 200 people that don't care that you're there. And I'd rather be home on my couch, you know.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a give and take, and it's all of that stuff. It's my feeling, it's their feeling, it's the energy they give.
Yeah.
To the
Well,
band
that's what I wanted to ask you. Can you tell the difference in energies, even if you're playing to 5,000, 10,000 people? Can you tell the difference in energies of the
Between
people?
young and old?
No,
or-
of the people, just in general,
Oh,
like of different
absolutely.
shows, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So, what would you say is the difference, just as a as a descriptive word, just out of curiosity?
Well,
Like, say you play 2 nights in a row, and
Yeah.
it's 10,000 people each night, and you notice a different energy in both nights. How would you describe the difference?
well, the difference isn't always bad. So I wouldn't
Right.
say it's good and bad. If I can talk about the greatest gig in the world for a minute, playing with Neil Diamond
Right,
is
yeah.
a pretty good gig by anybody's
Yeah,
standards.
yeah.
You really can't say too many bad things about it. We play nights with Neil where we played in Mexico City. I thought the roof was going to come off the place. I mean, when I say people dancing, I don't mean people swaying in their chairs. I mean people getting up and dancing, doing the twist in the aisles,
Right, wow,
doing samba,
wow.
in the aisles.
Yeah.
And then there's other nights where it's not that,
It's a little bit more subdued, maybe.
but Neil will play something like, Love on the Rocks or Hello
Yeah,
Again, and you hear the audience just go, oh, just like you just
Yeah,
did. And you
yeah.
hear that times 19,000.
Oh, wow.
It's not less
that
energy.
must be
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a different
Wow.
energy, but it's not lesser.
Wow.
And and that translates even to much smaller spaces when
Yeah.
if you're playing to 75 people, and you play a little song as an acoustic trio,
Mm-hmm.
and the 10 people in front of you, suddenly you see the guy grab his wife's hand, and you just go, all right,
Yeah.
we're doing something here. We're
Yeah.
getting something done here.
How exciting.
Can
that
you
must
see
be so
that
moving.
from stage? I was always wondering that.
I can. I see everything.
Wow,
I
wow.
see too much. I read lips.
Wow.
Yeah, I get
Really?
myself in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a story when you got in trouble. That's going to be interesting.
When I say racy, there's no dirty words here or anything, but I used to play a place all the time, and we would laugh about that. My partner and I, it was just a duo, but it was fun, and we would a lot of shucking and jiving with the audience. And a couple of these biker chicks came in. It was kind of an outdoor biker place.
Yeah.
I have played these songs a million times. It was kind of cover songs, that everybody knows, Beatles songs and Stone songs. So I can split my brain in half and sing and play with one half, and the other half I'm looking at you reading your lips.
Wow.
And so somebody made mention of that. And this girl in the audience, kind of loud after a couple of beers, says, my friends say you can read lips. And I said, well, maybe you and I should talk about that later. And she said, why don't we talk about it now? And she was getting very brazen. And I said, well, if you want to talk about the part where you're telling me that you wore those leather pants with the laces on it because you can't wait for your boyfriend to untie them with his teeth, okay, which is what she was saying.
While you were up there singing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
When I tell you
Wow.
the term, you could hear a pin drop. This big
That's
brazen girl with the leather and the
hilarious.
kerchief across the head and the
Right,
whole
right,
thing,
Gosh,
who
that's
with the
amazing.
tattoos, and she's shouting me down. She's going to show me what's up. She went blank. And it was fantastic because that's what she was saying to her girlfriends in private. The girls talk. They're all having a beer and kind of whispering to each other. And
That
amazing
is
that you can do
hilarious.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't read lips on a grander level. I don't mean,
Yeah.
you know, I can't work for the police department as an interpreter or anything, but that was a good time. That
Yeah,
kind of,
I bet.
so which means everybody else was scared to death to challenge me on anything. So
Sure.
it was quite a bit of fun.
So you're really observant when you're on stage.
Yes, I'm watching what people are doing, and I'm kind of
Well, that would be. I think that would be important to know. I mean, not like maybe someone with Neil Diamond, but to know whether you're going on the right direction or kind of, shift. It's kind of what we were talking about, emotional quotient. Knowing getting a sense for what's going on,
Right.
and knowing when they're going with it.
Yeah.
And the energy's going up, and knowing when you're kind of, yeah.
Well, I've heard you mention a thing called something about setting your intentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, as an entertainer of in any medium, setting your intention as a musician on stage would be, you're there to entertain people. Some people misinterpret that. A lot of musicians think it's my job to make everybody dance. I don't know where they ever got that idea. It's not. You have people in the audience that haven't seen each other in a long time. They want to sit and talk. Some people want to make requests. Some people want to sit there and hold hands. Some people just want to sit back and listen.
Yeah.
You don't owe it to the audience to give them high energy all the time, every time. That's kind of a waste. That you're kind of missing the point, I think.
Yeah.
So it does pay great dividends to be in touch with the audience. That's exactly what it means, is to be
Yeah.
in touch with the audience.
Yeah.
I don't dance a step. I love going to shows. I have the greatest time ever. If you put a camera on me, I'm sitting there like this, and people are going, "Oh, poor Bill, he's having a terrible time." No, I'm
Right.
not. I'm having a great time. I'm just not dancing.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So, Bill, tell us all about the British invasion bands that you played with, and what does British invasion band mean?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
Okay. Well, that's because you young ladies are far too young. But
Thank God we're young for some
not
things,
me.
right?
back in
I'm older than him.
1963 is generally regarded as the year of the British invasion.
Oh,
Obviously,
okay.
the Beatles
Right.
were the big thing to come across the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But the brand of music that they brought was essentially the British invasion. With the Beatles, there were bands like Jerry and the Pacemakers. There was another band called The Searchers. There were Billy J. Kramer, Chad and Jeremy, Peter and Gordon, all these guys. Now, a lot of these names might sound vaguely familiar to some of you, but if we played the songs of all these
Yeah.
people, you would absolutely know them.
Oh,
They're on
I
the
see.
radio all
Okay.
the time. A little bit later with the Hollies, people like the Hollies and Badfinger.
Oh, yeah.
Even Peter Noon, who was Herman's Hermits.
Yes.
Okay, all these guys. And so I've had the great fortune to play with everybody I just mentioned
Wow.
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 many times. Matter of fact, I know we might be going out of sequence here, but as of this taping, 16 hours from now, I'll be flying to Nashville to play with Peter Asher, who began as a pop star with Peter and Gordon, who had a huge song called World Without Love. That's I don't care what they
Yes.
say, I won't stay in a world without love.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a couple of other songs. Peter, after that, went on to producing. He was an A&R director at Apple Records for the Beatles.
Wow.
And went on. He was the guy who was responsible for James Taylor. He discovered James Taylor and produced him and managed him.
Wow.
And Linda Ronstadt managed Linda Ronstadt and
I
produced.
love James
So
Taylor.
all those records, when you see, and countless other people, Diana Ross, and he's still doing soundtracks. He's the music supervisor, and you'll see a musical consultant. You'll see Pirates of the Caribbean, and
Wow.
just so many movies I can't even think right now.
So is he British, or is it the style of music that's called the British invasion that people in America, that Americans copied?
Well, all these guys are British. All these
Okay.
guys came over, as,
Oh, I
as they
see.
say. And so that music really never went away. As far as I know, even to this day, the most popular radio stations are what we call oldies radio stations. It's radio stations playing the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all mine.
Yeah. With all due respect to the younger people
Right.
and their taste in music,
Yeah.
the older music from the 60s and 70s really dominates the airwaves, even on the computer, even on streaming, and even on
Really? Oh,
internet
that's so
radio, as
interesting.
far as I know. And so they have any number of these packages that we were able to put together, and we would have a core band that would play with all these artists. So we'd have the one four-piece band backing 3, 4, maybe even 5 of these artists. And it was great because as an audience, you would come there and you would just hear hits from top to bottom. Nobody was playing their
Wow.
new record necessarily. No, I mean, again, with all due respect to the artists now,
Yeah.
some people come out there and say, I want you to hear this new song that I wrote last night, even though the song you want to hear is the thing that I did in 1965.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
we kind of abandoned that and just
Yeah.
gave you the hits.
Wow.
So I did that for several years, and I'm still doing it when I'm not otherwise engaged. And it's a fantastic experience because it's just playing. Every song makes you smile.
Yeah.
It's that kind of
Which
thing.
is good for your soul.
It really is, and it's a great experience. These guys, kind of dovetailing the conversation we had earlier, they're older guys. They're in their late 60s. Some of them are in their 70s.
Wow.
Great.
They're still out there doing it. They still sing. They still play. It's real music. There's no pre-recorded tracks,
Wow.
Yeah.
and it's a great experience. I would highly recommend it to anybody who would ever be in the neighborhood. You know, it's a great thing. It's not just one package. There's several different branches of it. Sometimes it's one artist. Sometimes it's 5 artists, and anything in between. But it's great, and it's all the greatest music in the world.
Wow.
How fun.
Yeah, yeah. I did that for many years, and hope to be doing it for many more.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you will be.
Yeah.
So tell us one of your spiritual stories.
Well, because I knew I was coming here,
Okay.
I came up with 2. One is short and one is long. One is just kind of a little on the goofy side, and the other one's a little deeper for me. But and one of it is musically related, which is interesting because this is many years ago. I was living in New York. I'm originally from New York, and I was supposed to go to a rehearsal, a band rehearsal. And I just was lazy that day. I am not a lazy person when it comes to that stuff at all. I'm never late for a rehearsal. I'm never late for a gig. I always know all the material, which is probably why I could never do that in a real job. You know, I could never have monthly reports on time or anything. But
Yeah, right.
in the music part of it, I was
What's your
always on time.
passion?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just didn't feel like going, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying, I'm supposed to leave now. Let me grab a sandwich. I'm supposed to leave now. Let me watch the 7th inning of the baseball game. And I was pushing my luck.
Right.
I finally jump in the car and I'm driving, and I'm late. And I'm fantasizing about, okay, I know I'm probably going to get yelled at for walking into rehearsal late. And I said, well, maybe I'll say, I can't say it's raining. You know, it's not raining. You can look out the window and see that I'm lying.
Right.
And then I said, maybe I'll just say I hit some traffic. And then I said, well, no, 3 of the other guys are coming the same way. They're going to say, no, we drove the same road. There was no traffic. And I start making this up in my head. Right in front of me, in reality, there was this very interesting car. It was like a purplish Jaguar, kind of like an exotic, nicer, expensive car. And I'm saying, you know, what if I just said there was an accident on the highway, and it was the car right in front of me. That's why you guys couldn't have possibly seen it, because even if you were 100 yards ahead of me,
Right.
you wouldn't see it. And I'm saying, you know, if I have to elaborate on this story, let me get my details. Now, this is all in my head, right? This is,
Oh
this
my
is how
gosh.
manic I am. This probably says more about
Completely.
what an idiot I am.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm saying, you know, maybe what I'll say
Wow.
is this car in front of me was zigzagging and, you know, kind of hit a bump.
That is so funny.
As I'm saying this to myself, and I'm in the car by myself, the car in reality now, that's what I just gave you was
Your
the
thought,
unreality.
right.
In reality, this car, I don't know if he hit ice. I don't know if he lost control of the wheel. Kind of went up on the embankment and flipped over right in front of me, where I had to come to a screeching halt. And here is his car on its
Oh
roof
my
oh
god.
my gosh.
in front of me. And I'm thinking, well, I'm a warlock, right?
Because
Whoa.
that's exactly
you would
what one
Yeah.
would
that.
think.
One would think
Yeah.
that.
and I helped him out of the car, and he was okay.
Oh my god.
And, you know, the
the
cops
guy
came.
in the purple jag.
Yeah. I get to rehearsal, and I'm white as a sheet,
Right.
and everybody in the band says, everything okay? And I said, well, kind of. And they said, well, you know, we were worried about you because you're always late. I thought I was going to get yelled at for being late.
Yeah.
They said, no, we were worried about you because you're never late.
Wow.
You know, what happened? And I said, okay, I have to tell you, but it's a two-parter. And I had to tell him the
Right,
story that
right.
I imagined this guy doing this.
Right. And then
he
did it.
actually
oh
did
my
it.
God.
Wow. Have you ever thought about that spiritually?
Well, I had a similar thing happen again, when I was doing one of those packages, not the British invasion, so to speak, but it was some of those guys. We were watching the sound check of the other bands that we were getting ready to play at the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, which is it's like the Staples Center. It's, it's this huge arena. And our drummer was many years younger, and he didn't really know the bands. And I made the comment, and I said, "I'll tell you how well I know all this material." I said, "Really? If the bass player fell and broke his ankle, I could jump up and play everything without charts or without learning, because that's how well I know the material." I don't know why I said that phrase. Well, we all know where this is going.
Wow.
As the guy comes running up on stage, as they're introducing him, he falls and breaks his ankle right in front of me. They had to call the paramedics. He stood up on stage. They slid a chair under him. He finished his set, and they carted him off in an ambulance. And about 4 hours later, I saw him at the hotel, and I bought him a drink, and I said, "This is my fault."
Okay, at
I
that
wish it
point,
on you.
Oh my
at that point, I
God.
would think that I'm a warlock.
Wow.
and-
Yes.
Well, there's
Wow.
another explanation too. I mean, you're psychic. You've got the psychic ability that you've already seen what's happened. There's no such thing as time, so you had already known that this was going to happen. You may have stored it in another place, another area of your brain that is the magical part, or the thought that you could, your imagination. But in reality, it had already occurred. You had already seen it happen, or you already knew the future that it was going to happen.
Wow. That's
And that's a very intuitive, both of those situations. It's like a deja vu almost.
It was pretty scary because
I bet.
they were both what would I say, whimsical. I mean, this was not me being Nostradamus writing in my journal
Right,
that something
right.
bad's going to happen. I was
Right.
laughing about it. And in the particular case of the music thing,
I would actually see nowadays, going forward with that, it's an ability to wonder, what else is out there that you would see. Don't be afraid of it. It's a very interesting thing that occurs.
well, I just saw John winning the lottery. I don't know if that's
Right.
any value to you at all, but
Well, I mean, what a wonderful, I don't want to call it a reframe because it's real, but it is kind of a reframe. How wonderful.
It's amazing, actually.
Because
It
one could
happens.
think, oh my God, I'm putting this negative stuff out there and it's happening. I mean,
that's what it felt like. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be responsible
Well,
for it, but
but I
Yeah.
think with the car, did you say you helped this man get out of the car?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my
so
goodness,
so
yes.
then I would view the car, particularly the car, well, both incidences, but the car one is that you had already known this was going to happen. It was already guided into your psyche. That's why you were postponing. You may not have been really psychically or visually aware of, why am I just wanting? I'll have a sandwich. I'll watch the seventh inning. I'll do this. I'll do that. Why am I like slowing myself down? There's a reason for it. There's a reason for all of that. And the reason is that you knew on some level you were going to help this guy. So whether your imagination led you to that or not, it had either already occurred or you had already known the future of what was going to happen. And you helped this guy. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. That happened about 35 years ago. I don't think I've ever thought of it in those terms.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
This is
Let's
very therapeutic
reframe.
for me.
Yeah, good. Let's reframe some of those. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
but that's, because it doesn't make any sense that if you're never late, that you would
No,
procrastinate. Oh,
Yeah.
I get a sandwich. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. If you always did that, that's different.
Right.
But you've never done that. But that particular day, you just decided to do it. So I couldn't agree with you more. I mean,
Yeah.
it just feels
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, pay attention to other things that occur. All of us, everybody out there, pay attention to those things.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Good-
well,
yeah.
well, thank you for shedding a different light on that, because I was feeling a bit of guilt for a while there.
Oh,
Warlockish?
gosh. Oh.
Well, yeah, I thought, why did
No.
did I
No,
cause
no,
this
no.
to happen? But
Yeah, no. You probably, before we incarnate, we choose everything we want to do. And it may have been one of those things where you said, I'm going to slow down enough to help this man. You got him the help he needed?
I guess, yeah. I mean, he was actually okay. The car was upside down,
Oh, that's very traumatic.
and he kind of climbed out. He was an older guy. I was a younger guy, and kind of climbed out through the window, and he was okay. And the police were shortly thereafter. I mean, 5 minutes later, they were there, and everything worked out okay. But
Yeah,
Wow.
wow. Great. It's
yeah,
a
the
great
Purple
story.
Jaguar.
Purple Jaguar.
Purple
And
Jaguar.
purple is the highest form of spirituality. It's the highest vibration. It's
Really?
purple. Yeah. It means it's master level. Yeah.
Well, he probably
that
paid
was-
extra for the paint job for the Jaguar, so I'm sure he thought it was a
I
higher
don't think
level.
that was any accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I can't wait to hear the next story. The Christmas Story, you said.
Yeah.
The Christmas Story.
Well, since the last time I was here, and the studio audience will back me on this one. When we talk about some of the spiritual stuff, and you can't quite figure it out, and sometimes maybe you're not supposed to quite figure it all out. But one of the things that I've always had was, I grew up in such a great family that growing up, I just thought everybody had a great family. I thought everybody's dad was their best friend. My dad was great. My dad, we would go out and throw a Frisbee and we would play baseball and, that kind of stuff. So both of my parents died. I think I might have mentioned that last time, but both of my parents died within 2 months of each other back in 1988.
Wow.
So that first Christmas without them was,
So would you have been what, 20?
well, no, I was actually 30.
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome. I'm trying to get my math down.
Yeah. And so I was living in a little kind of bachelor apartment in Yonkers, New York, and I wasn't very much in the Christmas spirit, and I didn't have a Christmas tree and all that stuff. And what we used to do is, for the whole time all of us were alive, there's 5 in my family. My oldest brother is 11 years older than I am. And what we would do is we had our little Christmas tradition where we would line up in size places to get the gifts and all that stuff. Well, one of the traditions was the youngest got to put the star on top of the tree. So whatever anybody else did with all the decorations. So there were pictures of me when I was 5, when I couldn't even, my dad would hold me up so I could put it up there. Well, I got into my 20s and it's my 30th birthday, and I didn't live with my parents anymore, but they would wait, even if it took me 4 days to get there, they would wait so I could actually put it on the tree.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So here comes 1988, this terrible summer.
Gosh.
Everybody's trying to figure out how we're going to celebrate Christmas. So my sister Mary, who is probably should be canonized. She's such a saint.
Wow.
She had been doing a lot of work with this church in Tarrytown, New York, right down the street from the all-girls college where I played years before. And she was very close with everybody in the church, and she worked on the staff. And so what we did was we donated 2 Christmas trees in the name of my parents so they could have a mass. One was for like the children's mass, and one was for, I guess, like Christmas Day, where they would have a mass in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm not a particularly religious person. I don't go to church much, but I have my own way of, talking to God, so to speak.
Right.
So here it is, Christmas Eve, 1988. And my sister said, they're doing the mass tonight, and you should go up. If nothing else, you see all the kids, and it's this beautiful thing, and then you see the tree that we donated in the name of our parents. Well, I'm not really into the whole thing, which might be a whole nother radio show, but I'm not. So what I did was I went in between masses. And I'll try to make this part a little faster, but I go in, and here's this Christmas tree, and it looks great. And the priest there says, yeah, this is the tree, and, we've had it up for a couple of days. It's getting so dry because you can't, no matter how much water you put in it, it's so cold outside, and you have the heat on in the church, and it's drying the tree out, so we're going to change the trees now. And this old priest, and he says, you have a couple of minutes. And I said, well, I was actually going to meet some friends, but okay. Well, it went from, do you have a minute? Can you just help me take the tree down? To, can you help me carry it down the stairs and out the back? Can you help me take the other tree in? Knock the snow off it. This is December in New York.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm standing there, and I'm kind of looking at my watch, and I have friends waiting for me downtown, and that's 45 minutes away anyway, and I'm running late, and I'm stomping snow off my shoes, and so we're going through all these steps, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to leave this older priest to try to do this by himself before midnight mass tonight, so I'm going to be the good guy and do this.
Right.
Well, I go through all the steps of doing it, and I get in the car, I say goodnight, and I say Merry Christmas, and this is Christmas Eve, now it's 9 o'clock at night, right? I start to drive away, and I realize what had just happened. What had just happened was, after all this other stuff of me kind of hesitantly helping him drag trees up and down the steps, one of the things I had to do, because he was older, was I had to put the star on top of the tree with a ladder.
Wow.
but I didn't even recognize it as I was doing it because I was looking at it like, oh, let me get out of here because I have people waiting.
Right.
I got about 15 minutes away and I realized, wow, here we go.
Wow.
This was my family tree because we donated it. And after all I got to do, even after they're gone, I got to put the star on top of the tree.
Wow. Boy, that's so moving.
God, I got chills.
I
That's
know.
amazing.
And it didn't hit me when I was up there. I was
course.
on a ladder doing it, and I
Right.
wasn't conscious of that part of it.
Isn't it amazing how the other side,
Mm-hmm.
that's how they will connect. They'll do anything they can to connect to something that's meaningful. And you may not understand the meaning of it at that exact time, but it took you, good for you, only 15 minutes to figure that out.
Yeah, see, I was thinking I was a little slow.
No, I
because-
think that's pretty darn good, actually.
Yeah, but I remember I could almost show you where it was on the road,
Wow.
and I just had that, the light bulb moment. Wow, look
Yeah.
what just happened.
Well, imagine how your parents would have had to work that one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
well, that's what you always talk about when we have like this thought that comes across our head where you thought, well, let me go and see the tree in between masses.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right. They would have put those.
they
That
would have
first,
put that-
it would have started back there. It would have started with the idea of even donating the 2 trees. They can see down the road at long ahead of us of
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So I'm sure they put that thought in your head, and then the next thing you know, you, like a good little soldier, you did exactly what you were supposed to
Yeah.
do. They trained you well.
I guess.
You had good parents. Well, because you weren't going to leave the priest alone for midnight mass to schlep this thing up.
Yeah. And I didn't even know he was going to do it. And,
Right.
if you looked at a map, just geographically, where I was living, I was on my way downtown to have dinner with some friends. I had to go 20 minutes north in the absolute opposite direction.
Right.
Wow.
Due north before I went due south. And I just went, well, let me just do this. Let me kind of pay my respects. But I didn't really want to get caught up in the whole mass thing because it would have been a little, honestly, it would have been depressing for me. And I was trying to avoid
Sure.
that, because it was
Sure.
my parents and it was Christmas Eve.
Right.
And it turned out to be this fantastic thing. It really did. And
Amazing.
I think about it.
Amazing.
It's one of those things, I don't just think about it at Christmas.
Yeah.
It's very comforting for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
To
yeah.
know that your parents are there and taking care of you, because you were awfully young when they
I was
left.
too young for that. Yeah, I was
way too
31.
young for that. How
and-
did you how did you get through that at 31? Did you have a lot of support around you?
Oh, well, my older brother Steve, I have 3 sisters, Mary, Pat, and Terry, the greatest family in the world. And then we took in foster children most of my life. And my
Wow.
little
Oh,
brother
wow.
David, who has Down syndrome, who
Wow.
is about the purest spirit ever.
Wow.
So I had plenty of support in that regard, and still do.
I still
They're
do.
still my
Is the
biggest
family
fans.
still together?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Everybody comes to see all the gigs I do.
How
Oh,
great
great.
is
Now,
that?
are they in back east?
Yeah, New York and Connecticut,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
they're.
Are any of your siblings gifted musically and or gifted psychically, or both?
Psychotically, I could attest to. My older brother, Steve, is the great musician, and my sister Terry, the youngest of the 3, is kind of a late bloomer. She didn't start singing until she was 50, and she just decided,
Wow.
I've been watching you do it all this time, and she's
Wow.
great. She looks great. She sounds great. She has a band that works all the time. She,
Oh my God. How
Yeah.
cool
How
is
yeah,
that?
fabulous.
she's the greatest. Yeah.
Wow.
It's the greatest. Every time I go back, any chance I can, I go and see either one of their bands. They work. They, work in clubs, and
That is so cool.
it is. It is. I'm not sure if anybody's psychic. I wouldn't say they're not. They've never had a forum like this to talk about this. So maybe if you sat them in this chair, they would tell you 100 stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say they're all pretty much aware. That might be a better way of saying
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, that awareness is really important.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
kind of gets you in touch with your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And that intuitive sense, I think, is part of spirituality.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that is. And you've had some really extraordinary experiences.
They've all been great, and I hold on to them on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want. I kind of look at them like you would put charms on a charm bracelet.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me just have these hanging around.
Right.
and
Oh,
can
I
access
love
them,
that. That's a
when I
good
need to.
analogy.
That
Well,
really is. That's a great
yeah, I love
way to
that.
think about it. Different charms on your.
I've
charm
never said
bracelet.
that before.
Oh, it's
That
a
just-
good. It's a
that
really
just hit
good
me.
one because people don't know. Like everybody has spiritual experiences, but they don't know necessarily that they're even having one. So the fact that you could remember 15 minutes later and say, "Wait a minute, wait a minute," I love that, and I hope everybody can do something like that. have that, stop and reflect. Oh, why did this just happen? Oh, kind of
Yeah.
opens up a new way of viewing things, another point of view.
For me, I think part of it is I was kind of preparing to come here to talk about some of this stuff, because I know you guys are on the ball. And
Well,
I'm not going to get
we're
anything
into
past
it.
you. I'm not going to get anything past you.
We're into it.
My life is pretty easy right now. My life is good. Life is beautiful right now. And my life has always been beautiful, but it hasn't always been. I've worked a lot harder in my life.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is when your life slows down a little bit, or when things get a little easier, or when you can choose to appreciate things more. You can choose to maybe think about some of these things and maybe spend a little time figuring out, why did the Christmas tree thing happen? Why did the purple Jaguar crash in front of me?
Right.
Why do I have these experiences? Why do I care so much about this and not about that? Kind of like the charm bracelet analogy. Why is it this one is so meaningful?
Yeah.
I think what I've done is, now that my life has slowed down, I do take the time to think about those things and remember those things, and maybe learn from those things and practice what you learned. I don't know that I had the discipline, nor did I have the time when I was 35, when I was literally doing 3 gigs a day, and I was working way more than 50 hours a week. I was in the car 20 hours a week driving.
Yeah.
So now that I've gotten to kind of a comfortable spot in my life, I'm hardly retired, but I've gotten to a spot where I can reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
I can kind of consider the details a little more, and
Yeah.
I can do, world-class radio shows on Sunday afternoon. So it's not a bad life right now.
That's great. And I think what you're saying is so important, to slow things down just a little bit, to be able to let things in.
And to have the appreciation and the awareness that you
Yeah.
that you have, you are the things that you have. I guess the emotional maturity is really kind of what it is, where you can just kind of slow down and reflect. And that is an emotional maturity.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
I would say, for me anyway, a lot of it really does come from the music, because part of your maturity on any level is the ability to, it's giving and receiving, right? It's the ability to communicate. It's ability to, hey, I didn't know how to say this before, but I know how to say it now. Or
Yeah.
I really didn't know how to listen. I didn't know, I didn't understand. I mean, goodness knows,
So
this
true.
right here, me at 21 years old, thinking that I would be sitting here talking about my emotional,
Maturity.
my spiritual this and the other side, and I
Right.
mean, my goodness, you could
Right.
it was out of the question.
Yeah.
So a lot of what has happened with me is I've been fortunate to be able to communicate and receive, transmit and receive through music, because I've always said, music is vibration,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
We're vibrating. We're molecules. We're vibrating. And when you can't answer questions verbally, sometimes you can answer them musically, because you'll have people that you just, I don't know how to get to you. I don't know how we can communicate. There's just this blockage. There's something that we are not quite seeing eye to eye. And then some song comes on and everybody goes, oh, that Michael McDonald song. I love that.
Yes.
Right.
More to the point, oh, that Neil Diamond song.
Right. No, absolutely.
Oh my
Right.
God, everybody loves
Yeah.
that. And then we start
Right.
going, oh, don't you love that? Remember when that came out? How old were you
Right.
and where were you?
And there's the connection. all
And
of a
there's the
sudden.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting that you say that, because it is. I mean, music can move us so quickly, and we talked about before, because the auditory processing part of the brain is right next to the amygdala, which is the threat detector, and it's the emotional part. And so you're able to, it shifts your emotions so quickly. And sometimes there's a trick that we use, not a trick so much, but when we work with couples and they're fighting and stuff, and then all of a sudden you play what they've told you was their song, you visibly see the two of them do this, because all of a sudden
Wow.
what that song is associated with is the love or that connection that they felt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what like a Neil Diamond concert does for couples too.
Oh, yeah.
It really does bring them back together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I've told Neil in person. I laugh every night because sometimes it's so much fun, and there are a couple of moments that just get me that if you had a close up on me, you'd see I have a little tear. You know, it does. It does. It's that emotional. You feel the music, you feel the people, and you feel it arc back and forth, and
Right.
it's a great result. You know.
How did he respond when you told him that?
Well, he usually turns it into a joke. He patted me on the back and kind of put his arm around me, and I thought he was going to say something, you know, hey, thank you, you know.
Right.
And he said, oh, Bill, you know, you start crying all over this expensive equipment, you're going to ruin a microphone. That's actually what he said to me.
Sometimes it becomes a little overwhelming to take it in, right?
I was a little.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably heard that before. He's heard how emotional his music is. This is
yeah.
about the 700th time he's heard
That
it.
is so funny. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
We're
for
really
having
glad
me.
that you
Thank
came
you,
in. When are
Bill.
you leaving for?
Down
New Zealand.
under.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
go to New Zealand and Australia. We leave Los Angeles on October 15th, and we come back on November 18th. We're all over New Zealand and Australia.
Wow.
I don't even know where.
Be a
How
great trip.
exciting.
Yes,
I
it
know they're
will.
looking forward to seeing you guys.
It's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
sax player.
Yeah,
we're
great
traveling.
sax, Don.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you
and
for having
sharing
me.
your fun
Yeah.
stories.
Oh, yeah. And if you think of anything else on the road, or if any of those experiences come up for you while you're on the road, let us know.
I'm going to
Yeah.
keep a journal.
Yeah.
I,
Keep a
I
journal.
intend to come back.
Do that.
Yeah.
Come back and you can tell us everything that happens.
Yeah.
With the in-house studio audience who greets me with such
Yay!
passion, I can't help but come back.
Thank you so much, Bill. And thank you for listening, and have a wonderful afternoon.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world.